she could feel again. That's what the therapist kept suggesting. What her friends implied she should do. You need to let people in. You can't live like this forever. It's not healthy to be so disconnected. As if feeling was always the answer. As if numbness was something she'd chosen instead of something that had chosen her. She could lower the walls. Let herself care about the man who said he loved her. Let herself hope this time would be different. But hope had a price. And she'd already paid it too many times. She could open herself to her family again. Let them back into the parts of herself she'd locked away. Let herself believe they'd changed. But belief had a cost. And the last time she'd paid it, it had nearly destroyed her. She could stop the detachment. Feel the grief she'd been avoiding. Let the pain in instead of keeping it at arm's length. But pain didn't just visit. It moved in. It consumed. It became the only thing left. So she stayed detached. Not because it felt powerful. Not because she wanted to be this way. But because detachment was the scar tissue that had formed over wounds that never properly healed. And this is the truth about emotional detachment that lives in the shadows. It's not strength. It's not power. It's not enlightenment. It's what's left of you after caring almost killed you. The world has rules about feeling. You're supposed to stay open. Stay vulnerable. Stay emotionally available. Even after you've been hurt. Especially after you've been hurt. You can't let one bad experience close you off. You have to keep trying. The right person will make you feel safe again. Emotional detachment violates these rules. It marks you as damaged, broken, incapable of real connection. People look at the detached person with pity, sometimes with judgment. They're afraid of intimacy. They have trust issues. They're emotionally unavailable. These labels carry weight. Social consequences. The detached person becomes undesirable, difficult, someone to fix or avoid. In romantic relationships, detachment is a deal breaker. I need someone who can be present. I can't be with someone who won't let me in. It feels like loving a wall. And they're right. It does feel like that. Because that's what detachment is. A wall. Built brick by brick, each brick a moment when feeling costs too much. In friendships, detachment creates distance that can't be crossed. Friends stop confiding in you because you don't confide back. They stop inviting you to things because you're not really there anyway. They drift away. Not with cruelty. With the natural pull toward people who can still feel with them. In families, detachment is seen as rejection. You've become so cold. You're not the person you used to be. We don't even know you anymore. And beneath the hurt in their voices is an accusation. You're choosing this. You could choose differently if you wanted to. But that's not how it works. You don't choose detachment the way you choose a shirt. You arrive at it. Slowly. Through a series of moments where feeling threatened your survival. Where caring meant being destroyed. Where vulnerability was weaponized against you so efficiently that your nervous system learned. Feeling is dangerous. And once that lesson is learned deeply enough, you can't unlearn it just because someone tells you to. The social penalties for detachment are real. Loneliness. Isolation. Being labeled as broken. But the alternative, staying open, staying vulnerable, staying emotionally available to people and situations that have proven they'll hurt you. That has a cost too. And sometimes, the cost of feeling is higher than the cost of not feeling. Even when not feeling costs you everything. She'd watched what happened to people who couldn't detach. Her mother, who stayed emotionally open to a man who used that openness like a weapon. Who kept loving, kept hoping, kept believing he'd change. Everyone said she was strong. That her capacity to love despite everything was admirable. But strength looks different when you're watching it from the inside. Her mother didn't stay because she was strong. She stayed because she couldn't detach. Couldn't turn off the part of her that loved him. Even when love became the thing that was killing her. She tried to leave. Multiple times. But every time, the feelings pulled her back. The hope. The memories of when it was good. The belief that underneath everything, he still loved her. Her inability to detach wasn't virtue. It was a vulnerability he exploited until there was nothing left of her except the shell that loved him. Her friend, who couldn't detach from a friendship that had become toxic years ago. Who kept investing, kept forgiving, kept making excuses. They're going through a hard time. I'm the only real friend they have. I can't just abandon them. And maybe she couldn't. Maybe her emotional wiring wouldn't allow it. But the friendship drained her, consumed her, took everything she had to give and demanded more. She developed panic attacks, insomnia, a constant low-grade anxiety that never fully went away, because she couldn't do what detachment would have allowed, walk away. Her brother, who couldn't detach from the idea of the family he wished he'd had, who kept showing up to dinners where he was mocked, kept trying to connect with people who'd made it clear he wasn't wanted the way he was. He thought if he just kept loving them, kept being present, kept refusing to give up, eventually they'd see him, accept him, love him back. But they didn't. And his inability to detach, his endless capacity to keep caring despite never being cared for in return, didn't make him strong. It made him a ghost. Present but not really there. Smiling but empty behind the eyes. These people hadn't refused to detach out of strength. They'd been unable to detach. And it had destroyed them in slow motion. In ways that looked noble from the outside but felt like drowning from the inside. She'd learned from watching them. Sometimes, the people who can't detach don't survive intact. And she wanted to survive. Even if survival meant becoming someone colder than she'd ever wanted to be. The moment she understood she had no choice was the night she tried to force herself to feel. The man she was dating, kind, patient, safe, had told her he loved her. And she'd felt nothing. Not dislike. Not discomfort. Just a vast, empty nothing where a feeling should have been. So she tried to conjure the warmth she remembered feeling once. Tried to access the part of her that used to be capable of love. She focused on his good qualities. Reminded herself of moments they'd shared that should have meant something. Tried to manufacture the feeling that everyone said she should have. And she couldn't. It wasn't there. The mechanism that creates that feeling had been disconnected. Not by choice. By damage. Like a circuit breaker that trips and won't reset. Like a fuse that's blown and can't be replaced. She could go through the motions. Could say the words. Could perform the role of someone who feels. But the actual feeling? Gone. And trying to force it only made the emptiness more obvious. That's when she realized, this isn't a choice. She's not choosing detachment over connection. She's detached because the part of her that connects is broken. And you can't choose to unbreak something. You can't will your way back to feeling. You can acknowledge that it's gone. You can grieve what you've lost. But you can't choose it back into existence. The illusion of agency, the idea that she could just decide to let people in if she really wanted to, collapsed that night. Because she did want to. She wanted to love this man who was everything she should want. She wanted to feel something other than this flat, grey nothing. She wanted to be the person she was before caring became synonymous with suffering. But wanting it didn't make it possible. Detachment wasn't her choice. It was what remained after all her other choices had been taken from her. By people who'd used her feelings against her. By experiences that taught her vulnerability equals pain. By a nervous system that had learned to shut down before the hurt could reach her. She didn't choose this. This is what she became when choosing feeling meant choosing destruction. The detachment changed her slowly. Not all at once. Not dramatically. But each time she felt nothing where feeling should have been, something shifted. Her friend cried about a breakup. And she comforted her mechanically. Said the right words. Made the right gestures. But she didn't feel the empathy. Couldn't access the shared pain that makes comfort real. She'd become someone who simulates connection rather than experiences it. Her father got sick. And she took care of him dutifully. Drove him to appointments. Managed his medications. But she didn't feel the grief of watching him decline. Couldn't access the love that should have made this unbearable. She'd become someone who functions in relationships without inhabiting them. The man she was dating eventually left. Not with anger. With sadness. It's like you're not really here, he said. Like you're watching everything from behind glass. And he was right. That's exactly what it felt like. Being present but separate. Engaged but unreachable. Going through the motions of a life while being fundamentally disconnected from it. The repeated inability to feel, to choose feeling even when she desperately wanted to, had reshaped her identity completely. She was no longer a person who feels deeply and gets hurt. She was a person who doesn't feel at all. And people treat you differently when they sense that in you. They stop sharing their pain because they can sense you're not feeling it with them. They stop pursuing you romantically because they can tell there's no one home to pursue. They stop expecting anything real from you because you've become someone incapable of giving it. Not by choice. By transformation. A transformation forced on her by experiences that made feeling too dangerous to maintain. She'd become a different person. Someone she didn't recognize when she looked too closely. Someone protected but profoundly alone. Someone safe but empty. Someone surviving but not really living. And the cruelest part was knowing it hadn't been a choice. Knowing she'd give anything to feel again. To care again. To be vulnerable again. But you can't choose your way back from detachment. You can only live with what it's made you. And hope that someday, somewhere deep in the numbness, a feeling might surface that doesn't immediately trigger the shutdown. A small feeling. A safe one. Something small enough that it doesn't trip the circuit breaker. Something gentle enough that it doesn't activate the defense. And maybe, if she's very lucky, very patient, that small feeling might grow into something larger. Might reconnect circuits that have been dark for years. Might remind her what it was like to be someone who could feel. But she can't choose that. Can't force it. Can't will it into being. All she can do is survive the detachment. And wait. And hope that one day, the power that detachment gave her, the power to not be destroyed by caring, won't be the only power she has left.